everyone, good morning. Can anyone confirm I'm audible or not? Are you able to see my screen first? Can anyone confirm? Are you able to? Yeah. Okay. Lossless we stopped. Loss plus. We integrated our Redux application, Redux library in my React application or not? We integrated Redux library in your React application. Now, today's topic is like there has multiple topics are there. Okay, multiple topics we are going to cover as part of our Redux course. The first thing is like actions. Okay, why that actions are required? Just see, very simple. Okay, let me open Paint. Okay, first question is like, what is an action? What is the type? How it is looks like? Means very simple thing. My action is a simple JavaScript function. That's it. Simple JavaScript function. Can anyone tell why we go for function generally? Why we go for function? Why we go for function? To reusability of your functionality or not. Okay, you can write one function which is related to one functionality. Okay, that function wherever you want you can use it. That function wherever you want you can use it. Okay, that is the purpose of your function or not. Okay, same like this in your application, in your React Redux application. For example, there has one functionality I want to use multiple times. Okay, then that time, instead of writing that functionality multiple times, okay, instead of writing that writing that particular one multiple times, okay, you can off screen is visible. Just wait. I think now it's okay. Okay, wait for. Are you able to see my screen? Full screen. Full screen. Are you able to see? Yeah. Okay, then you can write that functionality only one time. That functionality, how many times you want me to use, you can use it. Okay, like that. Okay, just take one scenario. Okay, how we can use the actions. Okay, which one we can say like an action. Just see. Okay, let me open Paint first. Okay, the same diagram we are going to use for Thunk as well as Saga 2. Okay, same diagram we are going to use. Okay, perfect. Now, why we go for Redux first? Why we go for Redux? The state management at application level. Very simple thing. At component level, if you want to manage the state, then the time we can go with what? This dot state. State is nothing but just context. We can say, okay, in this particular context, this is my data. Like this, if you want to maintain. Component level, if you want to manage the data with one variable, is nothing but just we can use like a state. The same thing, application level, I want to manage the data. That's it. State management at application level. Okay, state management at component level, that is only local for that component or not. Local is nothing but I can use inside that component only, outside that component I can't. Understand or not? Okay, now the same thing, the state management at application level. That means what? Anyone can use the data or not. Managing the data at application level, anyone can use the data. Okay, now come on. My requirement is very simple. So far, if you observe my data, which type of data you stored already in your Redux store? Which type of data? Name, Sachin, location, mobile. Just string data you stored. That data coming from different sources. Can anyone tell? Different sources is nothing but that data stored within one variable, or my data stored within one database table. Maybe different. I can get this data from different sources. Now already you just store your data, the data which is inside one variable. Okay, which refers the data which is referred by one variable, that is completed. This type of data, string data. Now my requirement is my data not in a variable or something, my data inside a database. This is my database. Okay. How many databases are there? Can anyone tell? How many databases are there? Okay. Which database you know? Okay. One is like Oracle database is there, MySQL database is there, MongoDB is there. Okay. PostgreSQL is there, DB2 is there. Like this, different databases are there. As part of our course, we are going to discuss like 3 databases. One is like MySQL, MongoDB, and PostgreSQL. Instead of Oracle, just we can use like a PostgreSQL. Okay. Now this is my DB. Now my question is, who can connect with the DB? Who can communicate with the database? Who can communicate with database? My server-side application or not? My server-side application, my server-side technology one can communicate with. Okay, server-side technology can communicate with your database or not. So that this is my server-side technology. Okay, you know so many technologies. Okay, one is like Node, another one is like PHP, Java, Salesforce, .NET. All these are not like what? Server-side technologies or not. Okay, we will discuss like a Node.js. Okay, perfect. Now, my server-side guy, we are going to, my server-side guys are going to connect with the database. Okay, perfect. This is my database. Now, my server-side guy connect with the database based on whose request. Okay, my server-side guy directly connect with the database to get the data, or my server-side guy to my server-side guy. If somebody requested, hey, I have some data within the database, I'm not able to connect with the database, can you please connect and get the data? Like that, somebody has to request or not. Who can request the data? Who can request to my service? Server call one. Who can? That is done by client-side programmer. My client-side programmer or not, or front end. You can say like a front end or a client-side guy. Okay. Now, can I take this one? Can I compare? This is my client. Now, my client has to communicate with your server. My client has to communicate with your server. Now, my client has to communicate with the server. How my client is going to communicate with the server? How? If anybody, okay, if my client want to communicate with the server, how he can? By using which technique he can communicate? By using which technique he can communicate? By using Ajax. By using Ajax, that is your answer. Your answer should be Ajax. By using Ajax, we can send one request to the server and we can get the response or not. Okay, by using Ajax technique, just we can send the request to the server and get the response. Now, so far, how many ways we discussed? How many ways we discussed Ajax techniques? One is like XML HTTP request. Okay, that is a class. By creating an object, I did some performance, some operations based on your requirement. Another one is like fetch method. These two are given by JavaScript directly. Okay, these are the default. Okay, if any method or class is the default one, those methods and classes we can see in the console. If you want, you can see it. Now, the next level, we can see like an anxious one. Okay, after that, we are going to discuss about the jQuery one. Okay, perfect. Now, my requirement is this is the client one, right? Inside my client, what we have? Inside my client is a React one. Okay, now we can write our stack. Okay, this is my React. This is my React. So, okay, this server-side program, I will tell that. Okay, who is this guy? Now, the next one. Here, in my client-side application, there has multiple components are there. Multiple components are there. One of the component name is like a users. Okay. The component name is like what? Users. Okay. Otherwise, you can for example, okay, A component is there, B component is there, and C component is there. Like this, multiple components you can write it or not. Now, inside this A component, I have one button called as a get users is my button. Get users is my button. So now, at the time of clicking on this particular button, okay, the users are inside my database. My users are inside my database. Users are inside my database. So that at the time of clicking on this particular get user, my data which is inside my database, which database? Okay, what is the database? Simply you can say which database means that's the secondary one. Inside my database, that data I want here. First we can get it. After that we can think about the next level. Understand? Okay, tell me. If at the time of clicking on the button, if you want to get the data, then how we can get it? By using my JAX technique you can use. You can request to my server. Can anyone tell? If you want to send a request to the server, what things are required? Mandatory things. What mandatory things are required if you want to send a request to the server? Can anyone? If you want to send an Ajax, any Ajax request, that is like, okay, technique is anything. Okay, two mandatory things are there. One is like your URL. Okay, one is like what? Your URL. Another one is like your request method. Okay, who prepared this URL and request method? Who prepared this URL and request method? Who prepared this URL and request method? Anyone? Yes, it is prepared by my server side guy or not. My server side guy or not. Who used that URL and method? Okay, prepared by server side guy. Used by whom? Used by my client side person or not? So that it is prepared by my server side guy. Is it directly knows about the URL and method? My client knows about the URL and method by default. By default, he don't know about the URL and method. Now, my client side, my server side guy, okay, has to give this information to my client side person or not. That is like mail or whatever his communication channel you want to use and use it. Once my client get that URL and method, then by using this URL and method, okay, using Ajax technique, he will send a request to the server or not. Okay, can anyone confirm? Am I audible or not? Is it okay or my voice is breaking? Are you able to hear me? Yeah, many people confirm like this. Yeah, many people have said like it's working, it's audible, so that people can check from your end. Okay then. First application. Okay, so it's my server side has to send the URL and method. Okay then. Okay, now think. I am the server side guy. You are the client side person. And the server side guy you are expecting from me. To communicate with me, what you are expecting? URL and a method or not? URL and a method. So that I am the server side person, right? Okay, this responsibility I will take care. Okay, database creation. Okay, DB guy, but server side guy most of the times he will take care. My database creation and tables creation and server side code to communicate with the DB. Everything is done by whom? Server side guy. So I am the server side guy. Okay, what you are expecting? You are the client server. What you are expecting from me? URL and method. Okay, I will give that URL method to you. This is my URL. This is my URL. This is my URL and this is my method. I sent. Okay, through mail. Okay, you received, for example. Think like that. You received this one. Okay, immediately as a client side developer, what you are going to do? Can anyone? As a client-side developer, what you are going to do? And the first extend by using any communication channel. Okay, now you received URL method. Generally, what you are going to do first? Anyone? First of all, he is going to check. Okay, my client-side person also will check. Okay, is it really whatever he sent, that URL method is working as expected or not? He will check. How my client-side guy is going to check? How my client-side guy is going to check? How my client-side guy is going to check? Okay, different channels are there. One is like, if it is like a GET request, directly we can check through browser. If it is like a GET request, directly we can check through browser GET request. So see, I put this one. This is my response. I got it or not. Directly I can check through browser or any type of request. If you want to check, then we have some extension is there for my Chrome browser. What is that? Advanced REST client. Another one is like one software is there, Postman. Any one of these one you can use to test your REST API calls. Okay, as a client-side developer, we also will test. Okay, this is the URL for client-side developer, so that I open the browser. Why? Because it's like a GET request, so that GET request we can test through browser. Click on this one. Yes. Okay, done. Okay. Now it's working as expected. Once it is working as expected, what you are going to do? Next level. What you are going to do? Here, at the time of clicking on the button, okay, he has to send one request to the server by using this URL and method. Okay, once my client sends the request to the server, okay, my server is going to communicate with my users that is already done by server-side guy and give the response back to my client or not. This is the general thing. Okay, perfect. Now in my C component also, Redux not there so far, we not discuss. Okay, same button is there. In my Redux component also, same button is there. Users. Here also I want users. So that here you are going to use which URL? Same URL. Because here what you have to write? You have to write like a Ajax code. Yes or no? If you have the URL and that. At the time of clicking on the button, inside my C component also you have to write what? Ajax only or not. Like this. Inside my B component, one more button is there, get posts. One more button is there, what? Get posts. Now here also, okay, my request has to send to the server, okay, by using this URL method, because my data is inside my database. So that once you get the URL method for the post, here also what you have to write, which code you have to write, by using Ajax only, right? You have to send the request to the server. Which Ajax you want to use? XML HTTP request. Here also I written XML HTTP request. Here also I written XML HTTP request. Here also. 3 places I written. Tomorrow they said like I don't want XML HTTP request, can use fetch. Okay. How many places you have to change? Okay, once it is done. Okay, after that they said like a Anxious one. After that they said like a next one is like jQuery. Okay, is it the recommended way? Writing the duplicate code in different places. Okay, obviously it's not a recommended way or not. See, I'm just talking about the Ajax one. Ajax I'm using multiple places. Maybe that may be get request, that may be post request, that may be put request. It's not a matter. All are Ajax only. In my application, I'm going to write the Ajax code multiple times. Okay, so that I don't want to write that Ajax code each and every place. So can we create one shared one? Okay, can we create one shared file, okay, shared.js or anything you can put it name that's based on your requirement. Okay, my name is like a just server call.js. Okay, inside this server call, I'm going to handle all get request, post request, push request, all I written, all related, okay, Ajax related stuff I written. Now, who want, okay, to call a get request method, then the time can we call this particular server call.js? Can we call the server call.js instead of writing our own Ajax here? Yes or no? Okay, which one is the recommended one? Instead of writing this Ajax each and every place, just write in a common place. That's it. Okay, that Ajax you can write in a common place. Ajax is not like the same code. Ajax get request. For get request is same. Post request for post request is same. Put request for put request that is same, like that. So that now this particular guy has to communicate with what? Okay, this guy or not. Has to communicate with this guy. Okay, perfect. Now in the get users, you have to send what? Okay, you have to send one request to get the users. Okay, in the B component, okay, get post. Here you have to send one request to the server to get the posts. In the C component, okay, you have to send one request server to get the same users or not. See here, A component get what? Can anyone tell? A component get which result? A component get which result? A component get users. Perfect. C component get which result? C component get which results? Users only or not. Okay, this is also for users only. This is also for users only. Okay, both times we are getting the same response. My operation also same on my response. Okay, which operation you know? Store my users inside my Redux store. Okay, at the time of clicking on the button, full-fledged functionality is what? Call server call. From here, he is going to send the request to the server. The server side guy is going to call you, connect with the DB. My DB, okay, my server side guy get the data from the DB and give the response back to my server call. Okay, which response? User's response. That user's response, my A get it. Okay, why? Because who sent the request, that they only get the response back or not. This guy is going to send it, but this guy is a common person, right? Okay, here don't handle it. Give the response back to my A. Once my A get the response, what's my response? What's my requirement? That particular response has to store within the Redux store or not users. So how we can store? This is my Redux store. This is my Redux store. This is my Redux store. Okay, who can communicate with the store? Can anyone tell? Who can communicate with the store? This is my Redux store. Who can communicate with the store? My reducer can communicate with the store or not. So that this is my reducer. This is my reducer. Okay. Now who can communicate with the reducer? Who can communicate with the reducer? Who can communicate with the reducer? The person who has the data and who, okay, that data want to store within the DB. Not DB store. Okay, the person who has the data, okay, that data want to store within the Redux store. Okay, that guy has to communicate with the reducer or not. Communicate with the reducer or not. Now, in this case, to store your users, this guy also has to communicate with the reducer. This guy also has to communicate with the reducer. So, how many times you have to write the dispatch method? Here also, here also. Okay, the users, once you get the response, the functionality, for example, something like 10 lines of code you have to write means here also the user response you have to write the 10 lines of code. Here also user response you have to write the 10 lines of code or not. Do you want me to write like that? Is it the recommended way? Once you get the response, I have the common operation is there. Is it recommended to write inside my A as well as C? Okay, obviously it's not a recommended way. Okay, then that time, okay, my action come into the picture. My action come into the picture. My action come into the picture. Now this is my action. This is my action. How my action looks like? It's a simple JavaScript method. My action is like a simple JavaScript method. Okay, whatever the functionality you want, you can write that functionality. Now, here at the time of clicking on this particular EA button, okay, at the time of clicking on this particular button, A button, my A has to call what? Okay, see, if this guy call my server call, this guy get the response or not? If this guy call the Ajax one, this guy has to communicate with the server. Okay, the same back code is like what? My server give the response back to this guy. This guy is going to call my caller or not. So my B get the response. Now, do you want me to pass the response to my A or C like that? Okay, if you give the response back to my A, okay, on response, you have to write 10 lines of code. If I give the response back to my C, on response, how many lines of code you have to write? 10 lines of code you have to write it or not? So that, what you want me to do? Do you want me to communicate, okay, do you want me to communicate A, B, C with my server call? Or you want me to communicate with my action? Okay, which one is the recommended one in this case? Okay, if my action is communicate with this particular one, if my action is communicate with the server call, my action called server call. My server call called your server, my server call.js called your server call API. Okay, this guy is going to communicate with the DB. From DB, this guy get the response. Okay, the response back server call called by whom? Server call called by action or called by A. Okay, I don't want to call by A now. A, B, C. Okay, these all I don't want. So that just I don't want to call from here. So remove this one. I don't want to call from here. Okay, done. Okay, now who called? My action only called. So who get the response? My action get the response. Like this, you can write any number of actions. One of the action I written for my user, so that my action name is what? User action. Now, once this guy get the response, okay, where is my response now? The action, my action. So once this action has the data, where do you want me to store the data? Within the Redux store. So this guy has to send this data to my reducer or not. Now my reducer is going to give this data within the store or not. Now tell me, at the time of clicking on this particular A, okay, A component get users button, okay, do you want me to call directly server call? Yes, you can call it, no problem at all. Okay, instead of calling this server call, can we call my action? Okay, right, let's say this. First, you have to design the template. At the time of clicking on the button, you have to call what? Your action. My action is going to call your server call. My server call is going to send your request and response. Once this guy send the request and get the response or not. Once you get the response is given to whom? To this guy or not. The response is given to whom? To this guy or not. Once this guy get the response, okay, that guy is going to send or dispatch the response to the reducer or not. Okay, once my reducer get the data, okay, which data? Whatever the data, that data has to store within the Redux store or not. Understand? Why we go for actions? Okay, it's a simple JavaScript method, that's it. Whatever the function is, that functionality I want to reuse it. Okay, let me start it. Save this. This is down, right? Okay. Now, first, can we design this one? Only actions, right? Okay, purpose I already told you. Okay, just you can delete all these things. It's not required for it. I have one component is that. The component name is like users. The component name is like what? Users. Okay, at the time of clicking on this particular users component has one button. Okay, at the time of clicking on the button has to call action. Action calls server call. Server call is going to call your server. So already the server deploying. Okay, that is not your work. Okay, that is done by whom? That is done by server side guy. I am the server side guy, right? Already I created. Okay, if you want to test, you can test it. I already shared, right, URL method. If it is not work, then the time you can ask me. That is working, right? Then okay, where you written the server code, server side code, where is your database? That's not a matter for you. Okay, done. Now, first, can we do this one? Great. Now, this is my source. Okay, inside the source action is there. Right? Let me open our terminal. Okay, create React, create React component. Which component? Users is my component. Users is my component. So first, this users component you can load it in the action.js. In the same folder. Users is my file component name. In the same folder, users is my folder name. Inside the users, what do you want me to do? One button is required. Inside the users, one button is required. But get users. Now can we says get users. Done. My template ready. At the time of clicking on the button, I want to call my action. My action has to call my server call. Okay, it's the Ajax statement. So the actions you can write. Now this is my action. It's our tab. Here you can write like a new folder. My actions. Inside this one of the action is like what? Users action. Okay, users action.js. Okay, rename users action.js. Now, how my actions look like? It's a simple normal JavaScript method. That's it. Constant. Okay, which method you want me to write? What is the purpose of that functionality? What is the purpose of this method? Can anyone tell what is the purpose? What you require? What you're expecting inside this particular action, users action? I'm expecting like a users. So that get users. Get users. Okay. Get users. If you write like this name convention, if anything is like a capital letter starts with capital letter, but you can understand like that is like a class. Each and every class also, each and every function also acting like a class, right? Okay. Now, it is a class. Is it like a class or it's like a normal function? Is it like a class or is like a normal function? It's a normal function. If it's like a normal function, this starts with small letter. Get users. Okay. This method has to call from where? Users component or not. So here is my method that has to call from button click. So what we want? Okay, first of all, write the button, right? So this dot com. This is my get users. So like now here's user actions, users, _js. Okay, this is from here you should have to call this action. So how we can get this method, this particular file to this file? How we can get it? Through export and imports or not? So can we default what's that? Get users. Now can we import here? Okay, import get users. Get users from users. Okay, import get users from where? From the action. Okay, where is that action? My actions, right? Here. My actions. My actions. Inside this one. Now, this is my get users. Can anyone tell? Get users is like which type? Get users is like which type? This particular file returns me what? One function, right? You export one function is nothing but it's a function. So at the time of clicking on this particular file, we call this function. Okay. Now, for confirmation purpose, right like that, get users action or okay. Now come here. Refresh my face. Now says called. This is nothing but this guy communicate with this guy. Okay, now you should have to call what? Your server call.js, shared one. Inside the server call.js, what you want to write? Ajax. Ajax has to write. So I will write what? Ajax. So that you can write our Ajax code first. Okay, now come here. Now come here. Where is that? This is my users, right? Why we written this dot like this? Why means very simple thing. You are here. This is my users.js, right? See, you should have to come one level up. Is nothing but dot. You are here now. Again, you should have to come one more level up. Now, my action and my action both are within the same folder. So that you should have to come not only one level, 2 levels up. Okay, right. Write one more folder now, shared one, shared folder. Inside the shared folder, you can write like all shared functions. Okay, what is my file name? Can anyone guess? Server call.js. Okay, done. Now, can anyone tell which type of Ajax? Okay, Ajax technique you want me to use? Okay, first of all, find it. Which type of Ajax technique? This one I want to use it. Now, that particular, by using that Ajax technique, you will have different types of requests or not. One is like get request, post request, put request, delete request, like this multiple different, okay, different requests we are going to use. Okay, different ways we can send the request. We can send the Ajax request. Yes or no? So, how you want me to write? One function for get request, one function for put request, one function for delete request. Like this, you can write multiple functionalities, multiple functions. But can anyone answer this? Okay, I have one functionality is there, multiple functionalities. Okay, which is related to the same cause. Okay, for example, one particle is there. Okay, there has some information is there. That information belongs to one particle. Okay, then how we can bind this into, how we can provide, how we can wrap it. I have some information is there which is related to one particle. How we can represent by using a class or not. First of all, you have to create a class. Okay, make it physically available, and then whenever you want, you can create an object and you can use it. You can create an object and then you can use it. Yes or no? Here also, there has multiple things: Ajax get request, Ajax post request, Ajax post request. All are like which related? All are belongs to communicate with the server only or not, server calls only or not. So that multiple functionalities which belongs to the same functionality. Okay, multiple functions we are going to use for same functionality or not. Then instead of writing different functions, as you can write it, no problem at all. Can I create one class? Okay, is it like a normal class, like a component? Is it like a normal class or is it like a component? Okay, when it's done to be like a component, which is extends from React.component, then only say component. You want me to use like a component or you want me to use like a normal function, a normal class only, or within the class, how many functions you want me to write it? How many functions you want me to write it? One is for get request. Okay, function get request. Send get request. So this is one function. The next one. Function send post request. The next function send next function send delete. Like this one function. So these all functionalities what you written that is belongs to Ajax only or not, server call only or not. No. This particular method I want to call from where? If you want to send a GET request, then that time inside my server call.js, you should have to call this method or not. Yes or no? If you want to call one class method, how we can call it? Can you? If you want to call one class method, how we can call it? If you want to call one class method, how we can call it? By creating an object or not? By creating an object. So like this, we can say obj to new server call. New server call. If anybody want to use this one, he has to create an object. Can anyone tell this particular method used how many times? How many times you want me to use this particular method? How many times you want me to use? How many GET requests you want me to make in your application? How many GET requests you want me to make? Okay, that many times he has to call or not? Yes or no? Okay, so that each and every time he has to create an object and he has to call it. Create an object, he has to call it or not. Is there any other way is there to call this method without creating an object? Yes, we can do it. Okay, how we can make this method like a stack? Yes, we can make it. Once you make any method inside a class stack, you can call this method without creating an object. Now, how many people want to call this particular method? There is no need to create an object. Okay, if you know this class name, my class name dot function send get request, class name dot function send post request, like that. You can call it or not. Now tell me, who want to call it? I don't know. So who want to get request? That guy. Who want post request? That guy. So that some persons are want to use this server or so that make them available. Okay, make them use it. Okay, how we can? We have to make it available. Okay, how we can export? So export it. Default is that server call or not? Server call. Now, who want this particular methods? Okay, who want these methods? Okay, that guy is going to import it and he can call it. So that who want to communicate in this context? My user action want to communicate with the Ajax or not? So that where is my user action? This one or not? So can we get that server call? Okay, how we can import my server call from where? Import my server call from where? On level of my share is my folder. Inside this is my file or not. This is my class name. Okay, from here I want to call that method or not. Server call dot function send get request, post request, put request, like this. So once you call, it go to my server call. Now say this method is going to call it or not. Function. Okay, send request method called. Can you come here? Then I refresh my page. Yes. This is available where function send get request. That is inside my Ajax one or not. So if you come to the diagram, okay, you are here now. From here, where you want me to go? From here, what do you want me to do? From here, what do you want me to do? Can anyone? From here, what do you want me to do? From here, what do you want me to do? He has to send the request or not. To send the request, what you need? Send the request, what you need? URL and the method is required. Which technique we are going to use? Ajax. URL and method already given, right? This is my URL. Okay, by seeing this one, what you can say? What is the method name? By seeing this one, okay, what is the method name? Any URL if you access through browser, that is the default method. Request method is like what get method. So that URL method is there. If the URL method is there, By using some Ajax technique, and send the request to server. Which technique you want me to use? 𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕤 request or fetch or another one? I want to use another one. Okay, which one? Okay, I want to use like an ANSYS one. So that can we get the library first? Okay, that is the third party library. npm install ANSYS -. Okay, can we get it first? Right. Okay. My Redux integration already you're done. So already created. Okay, which data you want me to maintain? Yes, users data. Users data. Okay, now from here. Where's that? Still it's going on. Yeah. So that can you come here? How again? Import ANSYS. From where? Where is my ANSYS? My ANSYS. Where is my ANSYS? The library placed where? In your application. That library placed where? Inside the node modules or not? Inside the node modules. The library registered in the package.json. The actual library inside the node modules. So that any library inside the node modules directly you can get it. Directly you can get it. Dot like that. So ANSYS, right? This is the method I'm going to say I want to use for what? To send the get request or not. So that inside my ANSYS library, there has one method is that get method to send a get request. Okay, post method to send a post request. Put method to send a put request. Delete method to send a delete request. So those methods we can use in different methods. Here, this is the method I'm going to use for what? Send a get request. So ANSYS.get is my method. Read it. Okay, see that. What is that? URL, and there are some configurations. These configurations we'll see at the time of GW token discussion. Okay, for now leave it. The question mark is there is nothing but it's an optional. Okay, the URL question mark nothing is there, it's a mandatory one. So that the URL is required or not. Okay, which URL? Okay, this URL. What's wrong with this code? Can anyone guess? What's wrong with this code? This method used by whom in your application? Only one person is going to use, or all get request has to call this method? Who want to use it? Not only one person. All get requests are going to use it or not? If it is like all get requests, then the time, okay, get request is not only for users, or I can request for anything. Okay, post, another one, like that or not? If you really hard code this one, then that time always my response is like what? Users only or not? Do you want me to hard code like this? My URL should not be hard code here. That should be has to come to my method like dynamically or not. So who want to send the get request? Ask him to pass the URL as an argument. So who want to call this method? This method called by my action. So this is the user's action to send. You can give this particular URL. Now my function send get request is going to call with the URL. Okay, that URL you can pass it like this. Yeah. Understand or not? Okay, now another person want to call this method. Ask him to call and pass which URL you want. Okay, users, you can pass the user URL. Post, you can pass, ask him to pass the post URL like this, you can say. Now come here, anxious.get URL. Yes, one request go to the server. Go to the server. Perfect. Now once my request go to the server, okay. Now this guy is going to processing the request and give the response back or not. If my response come to my client, okay, requested person. Now, can you tell me, is it like always like a success response? Will you get like always like a success response? You get like a success response always? No. Okay, it may be a success or it may be a failure. How much time it will take? How much time it will take? Within 5 minutes or 5 seconds or 1 second? Okay, is it like a correct time, exact time? Do you know? I don't know that one. How much time it will take to get the response? I don't know. I don't know. At the same time, it's like a success or failure also. I don't know. Then that time, how we can handle it? We can handle it by using callbacks. But here, my anxious is not yours. It's already written by third party people. They said like, okay, to handle the asynchronous actions, okay, one is like callback methods, we can use it. Another one is like promises, we can use it. Another one is like async await, you can use it. Another one is like observables, you can use it. Like multiple ways we can handle it. Okay, now the very, very important question in your JavaScript. Okay, the UI.javakit.com. Go to the JavaScript one. Now see this. These are all topics very, very important. Callbacks. Okay, the next one is like promises, async await, observables. Okay, promises versus observables, Ajax. These topics very, very important. Okay, these many ways to handle your asynchronous actions. Okay, these 4 ways we can handle it. Now this guy, anxious guy, handle that action by using promise. Okay, any person returns. Okay, this guy going to return a response through promises. Any guy returns a response, then how we can handle it? How we can handle it? By using then and cat, so that my then has one callback method. This callback method called when you know if it is like a success response. If it is like a success response. Now the next one is like a catch. Catch. Please take like one callback method as an argument. This particular one is called when you know if it is like a failure response. Failure response. Now can anyone guess what is my response here? What is my response? Can anyone guess? In this case, my response is like a users. My users is my response or not? Now my requirement is first 10 users I want. So how we can write it? Console.logout response dot slice of okay 0, 10. First 10 users if you want, you can write. Now my question is, this part do you want me to handle here? This part do you want me to handle here? Is it the recommended way to handle this part here? Is it the recommended way? Can anyone? Is not a recommended way. Why? You know, this is the method only for users. No, anyone can call it. But this operation on my response is what users. On my response, which operation you want me to perform? Only first 10 users only I want. If you hard code the data here, next time I am going to use this particular method to get the posts. Now my response is like what? Not users. It's a post one or not. Then the time for posts, he didn't ask like first 10. Only they asked me the users. For users only asked for 10 users. Okay, so that now here what will happen? This is applicable for all get requests responses or not. Okay, so that here handling the response is not a recommended place or not. Here is not a recommended place or not. So that do one thing. Anxious.get will send a request, right? He is going to give the response through promise, right? Don't handle it. Give the promise directly to the who called this one. Give the promise. So finally, my function send get request returns what? This one. Returns this one gives me what? Promise. So function send get request returns a promise or not. If my function send get request returns a promise, how can I handle it by using and catch or not? Once it is like a then and catch, you can perform what for the operation you can perform. Because here it is specific to what users only or not. I want users, you can do it. Yes, you can do it. Understand or not? Okay, can you write like a console dot now my response is an out. Okay, the anxious one, my response is an out. Now can you come here? Can I refresh my page? Okay, I will debug that one, then you can come to know like which type of response we are getting. Okay. Now from here, save it. Now, yeah, save 10 users. See here, all the 10 items or not. 10 items or not. That means finally you send a request and get the response. So finally my data is inside my action or not. Now my action has to give this data to my reducer. My reducer is going to put this data in the store or not. How one person is going to give the data to my reducer? How one person can give the data to my reducer? By dispatching or not? By dispatching, so that this guy, okay, has the data. This data I want to give it to my reducer. So how we can use dispatch? Where is my dispatch? My dispatch method inside my store. So that I need to enter the store first. Store my store. Okay. How we can write it? My store dot dispatch. Store dot dispatch. Dispatch. Store dot dispatch take how many arguments? Store dot dispatch method take how many arguments? Dispatch method take how many arguments? One object as an argument for action. Object is an argument. Which type of action? Which type of action? This is my type. If you go to my reducer, you can understand now. That type should be what? Here you have to write. Okay, you can write. If my action dot, okay, type equals to, you can put anything users. Then that time I want to update my users. How can my current state, comma, within this, which one you want me to update? Users. So that you can take these users. Okay, you can update these users, or you can update. The data is coming like a single document dot. Yes. So this is the one which type? Object type. This object is nothing but dispatched object, which contains how many properties? Two properties, type and data. My type is like user, so that from here my type is user, my data is like what? Responsive data or not. Most of the times instead of this data we are going to use one of the property keys like payload, so that you can use the payload here. That's it. Now from here, okay, can I refresh my page? Okay, if I click on this one, yes, say this. Users by default array is like 0. Once you perform this action, this data which is coming from database. Once you perform this action, you updated that one inside the store. Finally, my store contains my 10 users or not. This is the one. This is the way it's going to work. Understand or not? Okay, that's the way we are going to use our actions. Okay, okay then. Thanks guys, thanks for joining. I will share this code and the video, so you can go to that one.